So there I am, standing in my own driveway on a Saturday morning, watching a tow truck driver look at me like I'm the crazy one, while this woman, my HOA neighbor from across the street, is literally screaming that he needs to tow my car off my own property because she says it's illegally parked. Yeah, you heard that right. My car, my driveway, my property, and she called a tow truck. Let me back up and tell you how we got to this absolute insanity. My name's Jake Morrison. I'm 34. I've lived in Pinewood Grove for 6 years, and I've always been a quiet, mind business kind of neighbor. Mow the lawn, wave, hello, pay my HOA dues on time, never caused any drama. Life was pretty peaceful until about 8 months ago when Karen Prescott got elected to the HOA board and decided that her new position made her the supreme ruler of our entire neighborhood. Karen's this woman who lives directly across the street from me in the White House with purple shutters. And yes, those purple shutters should have been my first warning sign. And from day one of her board position, she started nitpicking everything everyone did. Too many flowers in your garden. Violation. Christmas lights, up one. Day past January 1st. Violation. Your trash invisible from the street for more than 12 hours. Believe it or not, violation. But she saved her special brand of crazy just for me. And I think it's because one single time, about a year ago, I politely disagreed with her at a community meeting about a proposal to ban all street parking. I said I thought it was too restrictive since most families have multiple cars, and she took that as a personal declaration of war. Fast forward to last Saturday morning, beautiful spring day. About 10 a.m., I'm inside making breakfast, and I hear this loud diesel engine rumbling outside. I look out my window, and there's a tow truck, a legitimate commercial tow truck from Rodriguez Towing, pulling up in front of my house and standing on my front lawn. Waving her arms like she's directing air traffic is Karen Prescott in all her purple leopard print glory. I'm talking black Fennec top cut, so low you can see her entire silver necklace resting on her chest. Purple leggings that look like they're screaming for mercy. Platform sandals. Those ridiculous purple framed glasses hanging on a gold chain. And purple fingernails, so long and rhinestone covered they could be classified as weapons. I grab my keys and my phone because at this point I've learned to document everything this woman does. And I walk outside. The tow truck driver, this stocky guy in his late 40s with a mustache and a Rodriguez towing patch on his navy uniform, is standing there looking confused, holding a clipboard, and Karen is pointing at my car, my perfectly legal, properly registered, correctly parked car sitting in my own driveway, and she's saying, "That vehicle is in violation of HOA parking ordinances and needs to be removed immediately. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to HOA Karen Tales for more wild Karen stories." I walk up and say, "Excuse me, what's going on here?" And Karen whips around with this triumphant smirk on her face, like she's been waiting for this moment her entire life. "Jake, your vehicle is parked illegally, and I've contracted a towing service to have it removed. You can pick it up from the impound lot and pay all associated fees." The tow truck driver, Tony, looks at me, looks at the car clearly sitting in my driveway attached to my house, looks back at Karen and says, "Ma'am, this vehicle is parked on private property. I can't tow a car from someone's private driveway without their consent or a police order. Karen's face starts turning red and she snaps. I'm on the HOA board. I have the authority to enforce parking violations. This driveway extends past the property setback line, which makes it community property. Now, I've owned this house for 6 years. I know exactly where my property lines are because I had them surveyed when I built my fence in the backyard 3 years ago. My driveway is 100% on my property, but Karen's not interested in facts. She pulls out her phone and starts showing Tony what looks like some document she probably typed up herself, saying, "See right here, section 4.7 of the parking ordinances. No vehicles parked in violation of setback requirements." Tony, bless this man, takes one look at her document, looks at me, and says, "Sir, is this your property?" I say, "Yes, this is my house, my driveway. That's my car." He nods and says to Karen, "Ma'am, I'm not towing this vehicle. It's clearly on private property, and the owner is present and refusing the tow. I'm sorry you wasted a service call, but I can't help you." And this is where Karen completely loses it. She starts screaming. And I mean screaming loud enough that neighbors are coming out of their houses. "I'm calling your supervisor. I'm calling the owner of your company. You're going to lose your job. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. Do you know who I am? I'm on the HOA board of Pinewood Grove. We represent 230 homes, and I will personally ensure that every single resident knows not to use your trashy towing company." Tony just stands there, lets her finish her tantrum, and then calmly says, "Ma'am, threatening me doesn't change the law. I'm not towing a legally parked vehicle from private property. If you continue harassing me, I'm going to call the police." Karen's eyes go wide, not with fear, but with this insane confidence. And she says, "Call them, please. They'll tell you I'm right." So Tony pulls out his radio and actually does it. He calls the non-emergency line and says, "Yeah, I need an officer at 742 Maple Drive in Pinewood Grove. I've got a situation where someone's trying to force me to illegally tow a vehicle, and she's now threatening my employment." We stand there for maybe 10 minutes, and it's the most awkward silence of my life. Karen's got her arms crossed, tapping her platform sandal on my lawn, glaring at both of us like we're the problem. Tony's leaning against his truck, filling out his service report. I'm just standing in my own driveway, holding my coffee mug that I grabbed on the way out, wondering how my peaceful Saturday morning turned into this circus. My neighbor, Tom, from next door, comes over and whispers, "Dude, what's happening?" And I whisper back, "Karen called a tow truck to tow my car from my driveway." Tom just shakes his head and says, "She's lost it." Then the police car pulls up, and out steps Officer Sarah Mitchell, who apparently knows Karen because her body language immediately says, "Oh no, not her again." Officer Mitchell walks up, sees the tow truck, sees Karen on my lawn, sees me standing by my car, and says, "All right, who called and what's the situation?" Tony steps forward. "Officer, I'm Tony Rodriguez Towing. This woman called my company requesting a vehicle be towed from this address for HOA parking violations. When I arrived, I assessed that the vehicle is parked legally on private property belonging to the owner who is present and refusing the tow. I informed her I cannot and will not. She then became verbally abusive, threatened my employment, and demanded I call you to confirm her authority to have the vehicle removed. Officer Mitchell turns to Karen. "Ma'am, is that accurate?" Karen immediately switches to this sweet victim voice. "Officer, I'm Karen Prescott, Vice President of the Pinewood Grove HOA Board. This resident has repeatedly violated our community parking standards. His vehicle extends beyond the permitted setback line, making it a neighborhood safety issue. I was simply exercising my authority as a board member to maintain community standards." Officer Mitchell walks over to my driveway, looks at my car, looks at the house, looks at the property lines, and walks back. "Ma'am, this vehicle is parked entirely on this resident's private driveway. There's no violation here. Even if there was an HOA parking rule which doesn't supersede private property rights, this wouldn't qualify. The HOA can't authorize towing from someone's private property without their consent." You can see the panic starting to creep into Karen's face. "But the bylaws say," Officer Mitchell holds up her hand. "Ma'am, HOA bylaws don't override property law. You called a tow truck to remove someone's vehicle from their own driveway without their permission. That's called attempted theft of services and false reporting. The tow company is within their rights to charge you for the fraudulent service call. And frankly, you're lucky this homeowner isn't pressing harassment charges." Karen's face goes through about 15 different shades of purple matching her outfit. "This is discrimination. You're taking his side because his Officer Mitchell cuts her off. Ma'am, I'm taking the side of the law. If you continue making false reports or harassing this resident, you will be cited. Do you understand?" Dead silence. Karen's mouth is hanging open. Tony's trying not to smile. Tom's watching from his yard like it's the best show on television. Officer Mitchell turns to me. "Sir, has this person been harassing you about your vehicle or property before today?" And here's where I pull out my phone. I've got 3 months of documentation. Text messages from Karen demanding I move my car. Photos she sent of my car with red circles drawn around it, claiming violations. Emails to the HOA board making up fake complaints. Even a video from 2 weeks ago of her measuring my driveway with a tape measure at 6 o'clock in the morning. I show all of it to Officer Mitchell. Her expression gets more serious with every swipe. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button and share this video to support HOA Karen Tales. She looks at Karen and says, "Ma'am, this is harassment. This is documented, repeated, intentional harassment. I'm going to write you a formal warning right now. If this homeowner reports one more incident of you trespassing on his property, photographing his vehicles, or making false complaints, you will be arrested. Do you understand me?" Karen tries one last manipulation. "I have rights as an HOA board member. I have responsibilities." Officer Mitchell doesn't even blink. "Your HOA position gives you zero authority to harass residents, trespass on private property, or make false reports to towing companies or police. Zero authority. If your HOA bylaws say otherwise, those bylaws are illegal. Now, I'm going to issue you this warning, and I strongly suggest you never contact this homeowner again unless it's official HOA business conducted through proper channels." She writes up the warning, hands it to Karen, and Karen just stands there, holding it like it's contaminated. Officer Mitchell then turns to Tony and says, "Sir, I apologize for your time being wasted. You're free to go." And if this woman contacts your company again for any reason, please call us immediately. Tony nods, tips his hat at me, gives Karen one last look that says, "Really, lady?" and drives off. Officer Mitchell stays for another 5 minutes, taking my statement and making notes of all my documentation. She tells me to call immediately if Karen approaches me again, and then she leaves. And Karen just stands there on my lawn for a solid minute, holding her warning, her purple nails shaking, her whole I'm in charge fantasy completely shattered. Finally, without a word, she turns around and walks back across the street to her house with the purple shutters. Goes inside and slams the door so hard I hear it from my driveway. Tom comes over and says, "Dude, that was amazing. She's been terrorizing this whole neighborhood for months, and nobody stood up to her." Turns out I wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, I start talking to neighbors, and everyone has Karen horror stories. She tried to find the Martinez family for having a basketball hoop. She reported the elderly widow, Mrs. Patterson, for having unapproved flower colors. She threatened to sue the Johnsons for their kids' chalk drawings on their own driveway. She'd been using her HOA board position like a weapon, making up rules, issuing fake fines. And nobody knew how to fight back because she'd convinced everyone she had ultimate authority. Want to hear the craziest HOA tales every week? Subscribe to HOA Car and Tales and never miss out. So, I did what any reasonable person would do in 2024. I organized. I created a neighborhood group chat, shared my documentation, and suggested we all attend the next HOA meeting together. 19 families showed up. 19 at an HOA meeting that usually had maybe 5 people. Karen sat in her chair at the front table, and you could see her confidence draining as more and more neighbors walked in. When it came time for open comments, one by one, people stood up and shared their stories. Maria Martinez talked about the basketball hoop harassment. Mr. Patterson spoke on behalf of his late wife about the flower fine that stressed her out in her final months. The Johnsons brought photos of Karen measuring their driveway with a tape measure. At dawn, I presented my entire documentation package, including the tow truck incident and the police warning. By the end of the meeting, the HOA president, a reasonable guy named Richard, who'd been afraid to challenge Karen because she was so aggressive, called for an emergency vote to remove her from the board, pending an investigation into abuse of power. The vote was 17-2, Karen's own second on the motion. She was removed effective immediately, and the HOA bylaws were amended to require board members to follow actual law, not make up their own rules. But here's the absolute best part. 2 weeks after she was removed from the board, Karen put her house up for sale, the one with the purple shutters. Apparently, she couldn't handle living in a neighborhood where people knew exactly who she was and nobody was afraid of her anymore. The house sold in 3 weeks, and she moved out without saying goodbye to anyone. Not one person. The family that bought Karen's house, the Rodriguezes, Tony, the tow truck driver's cousin, and his family. Tony told them the whole story. They thought it was hilarious, and they specifically wanted to live in a neighborhood where people stand up to bullies. They painted over the purple shutters, made them a nice navy blue, took down all Karen's creepy garden gnomes, and their kids play basketball in the driveway with the Martinez kids. The whole neighborhood vibe changed. People started actually talking to each other, looking out for each other, not living in fear of mad-up violations. We organized a community BBQ that summer, and someone made a joke about having a park anywhere you want theme. We all laughed, but there was this understanding underneath it. We'd all been through something together, and we'd come out stronger. The moral of the story: power without accountability is just bullying with paperwork. Karen thought that being on the HOA board gave her the right to control everyone around her, to make up rules, to harass people into submission, and to use fear as her primary management tool. But here's what she forgot. Community isn't about control. It's about cooperation. Authority isn't about forcing people to obey you. It's about earning respect through fair treatment. And the minute you start abusing whatever small amount of power you have, you're not leading anything. You're just showing everyone exactly who you are. And eventually, they'll stop being afraid and start standing up. Thanks for watching HOA Karen Tales, where every Karen story has a twist. Like, share, and subscribe for more drama from the neighborhood. Remember, your driveway is your property, your home is your castle, and no HOA board position gives anyone the right to tow your car. Measure your lawn at dawn, or make your life miserable, because at the end of the day, we're all just neighbors trying to live in peace. And the ones who forget that are the ones who end up moving to a new neighborhood where nobody knows their name. And that's exactly how it should be.